So proving genocide is about proving intent. In order to prove intent, you need to find patterns. And when one reads your report, one can see two different types of patterns. One has to do with repetition, a repetition of the same type of act of violence, repetition in time and in different places, but also complementarity. In other words, one type of violence sort of resonates with another in order to make the intent even more visible. So if you can just quickly rehash these two or develop these two forms of repetition, patterns.
So, with genocide, obviously, this is the kind of the most famous thing about the definition of genocide as a crime, is that it's not only based on facts on the ground. It's facts on the ground, and you need the guilty mind, you need the guilty intent. You need to do that with the special intent, which is the intent to destroy in whole or in part. And usually, genocidaires, I don't say usually because, you have exception to that, but you have cases where the genocidaires try to hide the fact that this is what they're doing. They don't advertise it publicly. Here, Israel has gone through a manic state of a genocidal mindset that was unleashed immediately in the first hours after October 7th, the Hamas-led attack on the envelope in October 7th, in which you have declaration by military personnel, by people in charge of the military, the Minister of Defense, the Israeli president, the prime minister, soldiers on the ground, officers, all the way up and down the command chain are going to genocide. And they, particularly the kind of the leitmotif, the sort of the term that echoes throughout is the Amalekites, which is interesting. Because and I'll tell you why I think it's interesting. So firstly, who are the Amalekites? I mean, the Amalekites are kind of, an ancient people that lived in the northern Sinai, southern Negev area, along the kind of coastal trade route between the Nile and the Euphrates area, along the Roman later called the Via Maris. They're semi-nomadic people, an episode in the Bible have the Exodus moving, through the territory and confrontation with the Amalekite, and then the command, the biblical command is remember what Amalek did to you, and it folded into the remember is the answer. What the remembrance need to do is that erase the memory of Amalek. No, so remember to erase memory, and so it's a trigger, it's a whistle. Now, when you say remember what Amalek did to you, it is everybody understands it as erase the memory of Amalek. And you have that, and that appears that's tagged to images, and it appears as graffiti on ruins of Gaza, and it's becomes somehow the rhetorical kind of trope of this genocide. So you have that, the kind of the special intent is established on the declaration level, and you have, the prime minister says Amalek. We're looking at on X now that the use of Amalek is peaking among soldiers that are, talking about not only soldiers in active duty, but the Israeli society. It appears on the ruins. We have done to Amalek. We are erasing the memory of Amalek, and go all the way down to the individual soldiers in it. So this is one level of intent that is established. Another level that is good to have when you run a case is when the genocidaires, the people that perpetrate genocide, are losing the war. You often have access to their archives. Like you had access, the Nuremberg trial, though it's not litigating genocide, had access to the Nazi archives and commands going all the way down, reporting going all the way up. Do something, we have done that something. That is the kind of the gold standard of genocide. Now, you don't have that. Israel has not been defeated. The army is there. The archive is in their hands. And they will not give you access to that. In fact, they are saying what we are telling each other is that we need to save Palestinians. You say that we are committing genocide, but actually we are warning them. We are providing some smattering of humanitarian aid here and there, etc. So then, recognizing that the special intent cannot be evidence for that cannot be derived from still active militaries that have not been defeated, international jurisprudence usually allows for patterns to actually evidence the intent. What does it mean? It means that if Unit 1, say Golani, which is an infantry unit in the Israeli army, provides certain kind of atrocities in northern Gaza in October and November, or in November and December 2003, and another unit, say Givati, another infantry battalion, is doing the same in Rafah in May and June, and the paratroopers are doing that in another time, in another space. This is a pattern of action that, because they repeat across the battlefield by different units at different time, you can deduce from that that there is either a command or a policy that is promoted silently that demand that, right? So it's not each action in itself. The actions, the imminent action on the ground, testify for a higher order that is invisible. And then you're looking at different orders of patterns, and in statistics you have different orders of patterns. You have the immediate patterns, like let's say every school or an hospital within a domain of a particular unit is being targeted in a particular way by following a certain kind of actions, and then you start looking at the relation between one type of destruction and another. So, when throughout the genocide, you had a lot of reports, the World Health Organization is tracking hospital, and other organizations are tracking, the destruction of agriculture, and other organization of aid, and other organization, of schools. And then you have all this proliferation of term of scholasticide, of people that track schools, because they're seeing that massive destruction, and domicide, those that track the destruction of homes, etc. But what do the genocide exists in the relation between those different patterns. So when you would expect that if the Israeli defense the destruction is a consequence of contingency, meaning there was resistance from a particular area, and therefore we had to demolish it legally because there were armed personnel in that particular area. But then you would see, a kind of random distribution of data point across the map surface. What you see, unlike that, is that all data points align. Meaning when they destroy agricultural fields, it is actually part of a larger designed plan, which is to bisect the Gaza Strip into separate areas, and we'll talk about what happened in those separate areas. And in a clear geometric pattern in space, and in time, that agricultural destruction happened at the same time that attacks on aids are unfolding in a completely different part of Gaza. Attack on agriculture is an attack on the ability of society to feed itself. Attack on aid is the ability of, international donor to feed them from the outside. When you don't have your own fields and food does not coming in, that aggravates famine in a particular way, or create famine, or engineers famine. When you don't allow journalists in and you attack journalists inside. These are ways in which those patterns speak to each other, mathematically, if you like, across the battlefield. But each one, I remind you that each one of those patterns that kind of lead to this manner is like behind it. There's a video or a testimony. There is a voice memo that is sent to us, or videos that is sent to us. Each one of them is a heartbreaking testimony, like that of Hind Rajab, a child that is driven with a family to evacuate when and how the Israeli army instructed to evacuate, and is murdered in a car. And the ambulance that is sent towards her is also attacked, and the medics are killed. Each one of those points is a story that is actually also a human story that humanizes, and all of them are speaking about ending the genocide.